Hi, welcome to Walcott Fine Art. I'm Jason Walcott. So today, I thought that I would share with you the colors that I use in my paintings and why I like them. So, let's have a look. Hey, so thanks for joining me. And today I thought I would share with you the colors that I use on my palette and why I like them. And just so we'll quickly run through those, and I'll tell you a little bit about each color. So to start out, let me just say, first of all, I'm not being paid to endorse any of these products or anything like that. This is just my personal likes, the ones that I use, and by no means am I saying you need to run out and buy all these colors. You don't need to do that. This is just what I like to use, so I'm sharing that with you. So to quickly go through, the colors that I use on my palette are, starting from this side and going around, are Genuine Naples Yellow, Cadmium Yellow Light, Cadmium Yellow Deep, Yellow Ochre, Cadmium Red Light, Terra Rosa, Transparent Oxide Red, Quinacridone Magenta, Cobalt Blue, Ultramarine Blue, Phthalo Blue, Phthalo Green, Transparent Oxide Brown, Raw Umber, Chromatic Black, and Lead White. So let's quickly just review each one. Now the first color, Genuine Naples Yellow, that's a nice sort of classic oil color. It's a little expensive and a little hard to find, but it's made by Michael Harding, and it's also made by Vasari, and it's kind of this nice bright yellow, but it has a certain quality to it that makes it good for doing like atmospheric effects. So if you mix it like into a background color, it kind of makes it look airy and light, and it's just a really interesting color. And this is the Genuine Naples Yellow from Michael Harding. Sometimes I will use, in place of this, lead tin yellow, which in terms of color and working properties is almost the same as the Naples Yellow, like just depending on what's available or my budget for that month. And the lead tin yellow, this is a really nice color that's made by Rublev. So either one of these is kind of, I'll use either one depending, they're very similar. So that's the first color. So then moving on to Cadmium Yellow Light. Now Cadmium Yellow Light is a good sort of general yellow. You can mix it to make greens for landscapes. It's great for painting like straight out of the tube. It's kind of the color of like lemons or bananas. It's just a really beautiful color. And the cadmium colors have a very unique sort of quality to them because they're very opaque and very clean and saturated, and very permanent. So this is a tube of Vasari. So Cadmium Yellow Light is another color that I like. Next one is Cadmium Yellow Deep, which is kind of an orangey yellow. It's almost orange, but not quite. It's probably hard to see on camera because the camera just doesn't capture the colors the same way. So you're probably not quite seeing it, but it's a very sort of deep saturated orangey yellow that's a little lighter than orange, but so it's kind of the color of an actual orange fruit, and it's just a beautiful color to use again for landscape greens and warming up shadows and things like that. So that's Cadmium Yellow Deep. Then we move on to Yellow Ochre. Now Yellow Ochre is one of the earth colors that I have on my palette, one of 4, I believe. Yeah, one of 4. And for this particular color, I love the Rembrandt Yellow Ochre because it has a unique, again, you're not going to be able to really see it on camera that well, but it has a unique sort of yellowy, it's a little bit warmer and more yellow than other yellow ochres in other brands, but it's still definitely, sort of a classic yellow ochre earthy look. So that's just a really beautiful color, and I like that one a lot. So, and again, earth colors are great for landscapes and just tons of uses for, toning areas down. And so that's Rembrandt Yellow Ochre. Next we have the first red on my palette, which is my warm red, which is Cadmium Red Light. And I have a tube of that here. This is Utrecht brand. But I never, except for a couple of exceptions, I'm never really strict about buying a particular brand for all of my paints. I'll buy whatever's, as long as it's good quality, of course, artist quality or better. I'll buy, whatever's on sale or whatever's available. But Utrecht is a good brand. So this is Cadmium Red Light, which is a real nice, sort of light orangey red. It's a perfect warm red for a palette. And so it's great actually for making translucency on grapes and stuff like that. In the future I'll do a how to paint grapes video, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Again, it's good for landscapes. It's good for warming up like pink and red colors when you want to lighten them. It's great for painting certain kinds of metal. And Cadmium Red Light is one of my favorite colors. It's just a really beautiful shade of red. So that's that one. Next we have Terra Rosa. And Terra Rosa is another earth color. And it's kind of a reddish iron oxide type color, sort of the color of rust. A lot of portrait artists like Terra Rosa. Now, I'm not much of a portrait artist, but I still use it because it's a nice, great color for landscapes, for still lifes. And it's kind of this, red earth tone. You could also use Venetian red in place of this. It's almost the same color. Gamblin makes a Venetian red that's almost the same tone, but this is the Winsor Newton Terra Rosa. So that's a nice color to use. Next is Transparent Oxide Red, and I have a tube of the Vasari of that here. Now, Transparent Oxide Red is again one of my earth colors, and this one's very versatile. I use it a lot. In my still lifes, it's great for making shadows, because it makes nice, warm, translucent shadows. Again, same thing for landscapes. And the transparency of it and the warmth of it just makes it a really nice color. It's got a lot of different applications you can use it for. You could use this interchangeably maybe with a burnt sienna. So I kind of use it in place of a burnt sienna for a more traditional palette. But the transparent red oxide, because it has that transparent quality, I like it a little better. And it makes a nice color. I'll just do a quick demo here of some of the colors as I go along. When you mix it with white, it makes a real nice, you'll see what I mean when I mix it with white. It makes a beautiful sort of rich reddish coppery brown. Again, I know you can't see it on camera this much because my camera just doesn't reproduce the colors that well, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. So it makes this beautiful sort of coppery color. So that's Transparent Red Oxide. Next is my cool red on my palette, which is Quinacridone Magenta. It's Pigment Red 122. I've got a tube of the Michael Harding here. And this is a beautiful cool red. It's great for flowers, especially roses, stuff like that. And again, I'll do a little mixture here, show you. If you take this and mix it with white, you'll see it makes this really beautiful, rich, pink, sort of cool pink color. It's great for flowers, and I use it on my palette in place of alizarin crimson, because alizarin crimson was a traditional color that's been used by artists for many years, but in our modern times we've come to realize that alizarin crimson is fugitive, so it will fade pretty quickly. So it's recommended you don't use genuine alizarin crimson anymore, and this Quinacridone Magenta makes a great substitute for that. So Quinacridone Magenta is the next one. Now moving on to the cool colors. Now, this I have out on my palette, Cobalt Blue, which I do use more often, but depending on the subject or the painting I'm doing, I will sometimes swap this out with Cobalt Teal, because the one color that's nearly impossible to mix is a really bright, saturated, like turquoise color. So this makes a really beautiful, like aqua green, turquoise type color. So if I'm painting a seascape or something like that, I'll sometimes swap this Cobalt Blue out for the Cobalt Teal. But more often than not, I use the Cobalt Blue. And Cobalt Blue is a beautiful blue because it's kind of neutral. It doesn't really lean toward green, and it doesn't lean toward violet. It's a very neutral blue, so I like that quality about it. It's great for painting skies. It's great for painting like atmospheric perspectives in landscapes. And so that's the next color, Cobalt Blue. Okay, moving on. The next one is Ultramarine Blue, and that's sort of a classic blue that probably most artists have on their palettes. And Ultramarine Blue is a rich, beautiful blue that leans toward violet, so it's a cool blue on my palette. And if you haven't seen my video on the history of blue, go check that out, because I talk about where ultramarine came from and kind of all about its history. And I'll just show you with another mix here. Ultramarine Blue has a nice sort of violety blue tone to it. Not that it's violet, I mean it's definitely blue, it just leans towards violet, especially when you compare it to Phthalo Blue, which is the next blue on my palette. So that's Ultramarine, which is a beautiful blue color, especially for glazing. Ultramarine is really good for glazing. And then the next one is Phthalo Blue, which is my warm blue. I have a tube of the Old Holland here. They call it... Phthalo Blue is often the blue that companies will use, and they'll put their own proprietary name on it. So, like, for example, Old Holland, they call it... I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Scheveningen Blue. Winsor Newton, they call it Windsor Blue. So that a lot of times that'll be Phthalo Blue, but the actual pigment is Phthalo Blue, which I use in my palette. So, and if you mixed the Phthalo Blue with white, you'll see that it's very different from the ultramarine because it's a warmer blue. And Phthalo Blue is very strong, so it doesn't take much. If you can, but see, it's kind of an aqua, like a warm aqua blue, and it looks very different from the. I'm trying to get it to the same value so you can see it more. Yeah, that's better. So you can see how the Phthalo Blue is more of a greenish warm blue than the ultramarine, which is violety in tone. But Phthalo is pretty transparent, so this also makes a great glazing color. So that's Phthalo Blue. And the next one is Phthalo Green. It's the only tubed green that I have on my palette. And Phthalo Green is kind of a bluish green. So it makes this sort of bright aqua Kelly green when you mix it with white. But that makes it more versatile because you can always tone it down with other colors. But if you need a really bright sort of saturated green, you have this. If you mix that with yellow, it makes great greens for a landscape. I have a tube of Michael Harding here. So that's Phthalo Green, which is a beautiful green color. Next, we're moving on to Transparent Oxide Brown. Now, Transparent Oxide Brown is the third earth color that I have on my palette, and I kind of use it as a replacement for Burnt Umber. But I like this a little bit better than Burnt Umber because it's similar in color, but the transparency of this makes it great for shadows, for warming up the shadows on warm colors, and it's just a really beautiful color for landscapes. And then, like I said, its transparency makes it good for glazing, but you can also use it for opaque effects as well if you put it on more thickly. So that's transparent oxide brown. Then we come to raw umber, and this is one of the few colors where I'm more brand particular, or I buy a specific brand, and the reason for that is I like a raw umber that's cool. And a lot of raw umbers from most paint manufacturers will be warm in color, very close actually to the burnt umber. There's not a tremendous amount of difference, but I like a raw umber that's cool and leans toward gray. And so the two companies that make raw umber in that color are Vasari, which is my favorite because they're really top quality branded paint, but the other company that makes a cool raw umber is the Richish and Shiba oils, which is also a pretty good brand. And these two raw umbers are almost identical in color, and they're both cool, which I like. So if you mix it with white, you can kind of see that it makes a more like neutral gray color that isn't super warm. And I like that. It's great for backgrounds, it's great for landscapes and things like that. So anyway, so that's my raw umber from Vasari. And the final color I have on my palette before white is Chromatic Black. Now again, this is a specific brand because the only company that I know of that makes this Chromatic Black, as it's called, is Gamblin. And what this is rather than being a straightforward black pigment, like ivory black or Mars black or something, this is actually a mixed black. So they create the black by mixing in the perfect proportions. They mix together I believe it's Quinacridone Rose and Phthalo Green. And they mix it just the right that it makes a neutral black color. But the thing that makes that interesting is it behaves like a black and it darkens down the colors, but it doesn't make them look dirty or dull. So it kind of darkens the colors without making them real dull looking and dirty the way some blacks can. So like if you were to mix that with the Phthalo Green here, you can see that it tones the green down, but it doesn't look dirty, even though it looks more dull and sort of darkened. So that's what I like about it. And I'm surprised that other companies have not jumped on the bandwagon with this mixed black like that. But as far as I know, Gamblin is the only one that makes it. So if you want to check that out sometime, that's Chromatic Black from Gamblin. And last but not least, we have Lead White. Lead White is a beautiful white because it's sort of has this pearlescent quality to it. I can't describe it. Artists have used lead whites for centuries. It's been the traditional white, and it just has a quality to it that's very pleasing. I will occasionally use titanium white sometimes if I need specific effects that the lead white just won't give me, because lead white is not as strong of a tinter as titanium white. But one of my favorite lead whites is this Rublev Lead White number 1, and that's just a beautiful color. So most of the time this is what I use. And I do have several supplemental colors that I'll occasionally use if needed, and those are Pyrrol Red, which is a really good sort of red that's between Cadmium Red Light and Quinacridone Red, and it's this really like sort of American flag red that's really beautiful. So occasionally if I need a red like that, I'll use the Pyrrol Red. The other supplemental color I will sometimes use is Cadmium Orange, because it's a really bright, clean orange that you can't really mix from other colors. And then the last one that I will occasionally sometimes use is Dioxazine Violet if I need a really bright, clean violet. And then lastly, the mediums I use on my palette, I use one of two mediums. Usually, more often than not, I'll use this medium, which is the one I mix myself. which is a traditional painting medium made from 1/3 linseed oil, 1/3 Damar varnish, and 1/3 turpentine. So that's the one that I use most of the time. But occasionally I will use this Merige painting medium, which I liked. This is good for glazing. It's good for increasing, it speeds up the drying time of your paints a little bit. And I use it in tiny amounts. You don't want to overuse it, because I've heard it can cause, like if you use too much, it can cause cracking and darkening. But it isn't a really nice medium that has some unique qualities to it. It's actually like a gel almost. So if you squeeze it out, you can see it's got like a gel-like consistency. And the main thing about this that makes it interesting, which is kind of why artists like it, is it has a property that's called Thixotropic, which means when you mix it around, it behaves more like a liquid. But as soon as you stop mixing it, it immediately sets up and becomes like it holds its shape. So you can see it's not sliding off the knife or moving. So it lends an interesting texture to your paint that's sometimes useful for certain kinds of effects and stuff. So I will occasionally use the Merige. It's Flemish Merige, made by this company called Old Masters. You can get it online. Anyway, so that is a basic review of the colors and mediums that I use. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. Go ahead and click on that subscribe button so you won't miss the next video. And why not spread the joy? Be sure to share my videos on your favorite social media. Don't forget to head on over to my website, walcottfineart.com, where you can see my art, read my blog, or when you join my newsletter list, you can win free art. Every month, I'll choose a lucky winner for my email list, and that person will receive a mini original oil painting. There's a chance to win every month, so be sure to sign up today so you don't miss out. Plus, you'll get my fun newsletter. See you next time!